Our next storyteller is a woman who has flown on Air Force One attending the President. Greta Krapohl, RN and PhD, rose to the rank of Lieutenant Colonel while serving 2 decades in the U.S. Army Nurse Corps, including an assignment at the White House Medical Unit. For 2 years, she traveled with the President and First Lady as part of an advanced team on Air Force One. Her husband, Greta, served 30 years in the United States Marine Corps as both active and reserve. Today, she is Director of Clinical Operations for the Michigan Surgical Quality Collaborative. Please welcome Greta Krapohl.
One of the greatest things about the military and the greatest stressors is you never know where you're going to be or where you're going to be doing from one day to the next. In my 2 decades in the Army, I've been stationed many places, from Honolulu, Hawaii to Fort Bragg, North Carolina. I've been to every state in the United States except Alaska, and I've been all over the world. So when the Army Assignment Branch called me up and said, would you be interested to compete for an assignment at the White House Medical Unit, I did not hesitate. This seemed like an opportunity I could not pass up. Most people don't even realize that the President has a medical team, but when you think that the most powerful man in the world, truthfully, his health and safety is paramount. So that unit is comprised of Army, Navy, and Air Force medical personnel, and the mission is to provide comprehensive medical care to the First Family, the VP, and the First Family, the VP, the President, wherever and whenever they need it. So I show up at the Pentagon, and there's a lot of people just like me, men and women with a lot of intensive care nursing under their belts, and lots of initials and certifications after their name. ICU nursing, field nursing, emergency room nursing, trauma nursing. But it all came down to this. Who could pass the top secret security clearance is what then was considered a black book assignment. Well, I did. People say to me, they say, Greta, how did you get that job? And I answer truthfully when I tell them, I think I was the only one that passed my security clearance, because it was tough. But my husband says, he goes, Greta, you're either a very good person or a very boring person. So I did end up getting the job. So one of my first days on the job, I was standing at the Rose Garden, and President Clinton was announcing the rescue of Air Force Captain Scott O'Grady, a fighter pilot who was shot down in Bosnia a week earlier. And as I stood there, it was surreal. I almost felt like I was going to faint at the sheer realization that I was at the White House. So I did not faint, but I went home that night and I told my husband, I said, Graydon, I just dodged a very embarrassing day on my first day at the White House, but he was very reassuring. And he gave me a good pep talk. He gave me a dose of confidence and an admonishment to move my legs whenever I'm standing upright. And that was really good advice. Then I needed that pep talk because a few days later, the President needed a routine blood sample. And this was like my first week on the job. So the Secret Service ushered President Clinton into the medical unit, which is adjacent to the diplomatic reception room. The medical unit. So you bring him in, and I'm getting everything ready, and I put the tourniquet on, and I got his antecubital site, and I get the needle and the syringe, and I'm getting ready to get his blood, and he looks at me, and I look at him, and he says, Greta, do you know how many people would want to be in your position right now with a needle and getting ready to take all my blood? But whether you were assigned to the White House or Fort Bragg, taking care of the President of the United States or Private Smith, one thing in military service stays constant, and that is the great people that you work with, your comrades. They come from all walks of life, all parts of the nation, coming together to accomplish a mission, and you forge the strongest of bonds. That, in my opinion, is what makes any assignment, wherever you are, presidential. Thank you.